I'll start because I want to tee you up and kind of give people kind of background. Fortunately and unfortunately for a lot of Ylopoers, they see my face all the time, and I'm glad they get to see yours today because you're really the man who took a risk on hiring me, and I think that's going to demonstrate some really cool stories. I'm going to talk about how Hatch hired me and what I learned from him. But for those of you who don't know, Eric has now built a real estate team. We sold 860 plus homes in 2020, correct?
Yeah, we were 868. Yep.
68. And the funny thing is that the lesser known story of Hatch and Hatch Realty is that Eric once built a business the absolute wrong way one time and hired the wrong people, built a team. And what happened, Hatch?
Oh man, maybe you can tell by my outfit, but I'm kind of a bad boy. You know what I mean? Like, I got kicked out of a brokerage back in 2013 because I had done everything wrong. I hired the wrong people. I put the wrong people in the wrong seats. I was a terrible leader. There's a massive difference between recruiting and hiring. And I just said, if you have a pulse and you want to sell real estate, you're going to do great on my team. And it all blew up in my face. And I started over. I built my business starting in 2011. And by April 2013, I had started over completely. Was on the brink of bankruptcy and just made some serious mistakes. And there's a book right now that is kind of like the hot book of today for a lot of leaders. And it's the book Who Not How. And it is very much, it's a philosophy worth subscribing to and adopting. And that is, if you are studying and getting the right who's in your world and you're the right leader for them, the how is really easy. But most people lead with the how of the lead source and the business structure, and you pay less attention to the who's, and I don't think that that's going to work for anybody.
I like we always talk about the 4 R's, right? Which is hiring the right person, putting them in the right position, having them say the right things at the right time. And sometimes we see someone who's great, but we're hiring them for the wrong position. And are we smart enough as leaders to say, okay, this is a great person, but why are they interviewing for this? We could really use them for that. And that's, a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah, 100%. And I know from my experience, I just kind of want to share, I think obviously this is about how to hire right every single time. And you're going to learn this, you're going to walk away and you're not going to hire right every single time, even if you hear us. But I think you're going to hire right a lot more often. So Hatch, why don't you give some framework to what our hiring process looks like now, and maybe contrast it with what the common mantra of what you hear, and maybe start there. What do we hear out there in the business community of, common ideas of how do you hire, that sort of thing?
The biggest mistake that's out there, I think, for people is that they spend their time hiring instead of recruiting. Recruitment is intentionally going after year-round, trying to find the right people, and hiring is placing a job ad, hoping that the right person shows up for that 4 weeks that the job ad is posted. And the mistake that I have made, and certainly a lot of my clients in my coaching world have made, is that they will only put the feelers out there and they will only let people know the character, the values, and the context of their company in that one small smidge of trying to find somebody. So let's say today, January 14th, 2021, we needed to hire an admin, or we wanted to hire an agent for our team. We placed that ad. We use a company called WiseHire, WIZEHIRE, and WiseHire is a really great resource. I think it serves as HR in a box. It's going to put it on all the different platforms. It's going to blast it out there to the Indeeds and the Monsters and the Craigslist and the LinkedIns, all those places that you're going to hunt down talent. And in that time, the job ad is really important. What we don't do is we don't say, you're going to make a ton of money in real estate by coming to work with us. And we don't oversell and overcommit on this. And instead, we talk about how difficult it's actually going to be. We say that this is only for the exceedingly high talented people that are massively driven, that are intentionally focused. And we make sure that we're creating a construct that they understand immediately that this is not the typical gig. Now, what most people do after they collect those ads is they're going to breeze, or those applicants, is they're going to breeze through and take a look to say, you know, I think I like 4 of these people. I better give them each a 30-minute interview. And after that 30-minute interview, they say, I'm ready to get married to that person. I'm gonna hire that person. That's the hiring process for 80 or 90% of people that are hiring. If Howard places his ad and I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy has an amazing resume. That resume can be full of crap, can it? Like, it can be easily fluffed, easily lied about. And I'm making a decision now after 30 minutes of somebody giving me their Sunday best, giving me their honeymoon phase energy, and I'm not going deep enough to learn anything about them. We wonder why.
I'm doing a ton. We're doing a ton of recruiting. We're hiring like mad. So I'm really excited I'm already learning from you guys, right? Which is to think about changing your mindset from hiring for a specific job to recruiting. And, you know, we're growing at a clip where, you know, we need to be recruiting for amazing account managers all the time. It's got to be an always on sign. And I don't personally interview for every position in the company, but I made a change last year where I got tired of yelling at my executive team for having, you know, hiring, let's say, product support people and putting them in account management roles, right? They're very different people. They're both very valuable. And we ended up bifurcating client success. So we have both. But I said, you know what? I need to walk the walk. So there's no account manager that will never get hired here without me being the final round. So I've immersed myself back into interviewing, and I've got a few tidbits to share, you know, as well. But what you're talking about here, Eric, no one really reads the resumes as carefully as I do. I find 3/4 of the time I find a mistake. So a gap in, you know, employment, or why do you have 2 companies that say to present? Like, oh, and every single time it's like, oh, that's an error. But like, that's your resume that you gave to us. And why am I finding the error? Like, what does that show you about, like, should you put this person in a attention to detail, you know, job? They might still be great as a salesperson, right? You have to think about this stuff. And I found stuff like, well, you've used Salesforce, the CRM, for your last few gigs, but you didn't place that on your, like, you know, software users. Like, why is that? And it was just like, oh, you know, didn't think. There's so much stuff that I see which can tell you a lot sort of about the person, plus their explanation of it.
Yeah. So what you're really articulating, Howard, is I think you're able to automatically inspect what you expect based on how they're originally showing up. I think that if you're looking to hire a salesperson, you almost expect errors on their resume, and you expect them to not have a great attention to detail. You're
gotta be afraid if there's not spelling or grammatical errors. You're too detailing oriented ISA, not an agent.
Howard, in your tech and data-driven world, details matter way more than almost any other profession. And so you are right to investigate that. If we're hiring an admin or a transaction coordinator, somebody who has to pay very close attention to those details, I'm with you, man. We pay scrupulous attention to those resumes. When it comes to,
let me ask you guys a question. Yeah. So the one question, I have a bunch of questions I ask. You know, one question that I ask, no matter what position I'm interviewing someone for, is, so tell me, what does Ylopo do? Now, this is you guys know, like, we're a beast of technology, right? And that's a really hard question to answer. But what am I looking for? I'm looking for, has someone like taken the time prior to meeting with the CEO of the company to go to my website, look at all the great stuff that Kiwis put up there, and figure out what we do and throw it back to me? Now, do they throw it back to me? Some people throw it back to me in such minute detail that at the end, and I basically say, the way I frame it is, make believe I'm your family member. You finished an interview. They said, oh, what did you do today? I interviewed for this company, Ylopo. Okay, and they're like, oh, what do they do? So you have to explain this to, like, your aunt who has no clue. That's my challenge to them. Sometimes I get like this crazy minute detail, and it's just facts. And I have no idea what they did. I run the company. I have no idea what they just said, right? You know, so it's a fascinating question. So what am I looking for? The ability to communicate something to someone else in plain English in a short period of time. So I'm wondering, for you guys, to bring this back to be helpful to our audience, you guys have some go-to questions like that if you're hiring for an ISA, a salesperson, or transaction coordinator, whatever you guys are hiring for?
Yeah, you're really touching on a solid fundamental piece, and that is that person looking for a job, or are they looking for a job with Hatch Realty? Are they looking for a job, or are they looking for a job with Ylopo? Because somebody who's simply wanting to be in real estate is a dime a dozen. Somebody who wants to work with us, and they know, because they're already buying into the culture, the values, the vision of where we're going. That's our whole process. And so I'm going to answer your question, Howard, by explaining our process. We have 9 steps here, and you'll see that there are these touch points here. And then when we get to the interview portions of it, we really can ask some profound questions to figure out, is it here that you want to work, or is it real estate that you're drawn to? And so those that love real estate usually don't work very well on our team. It's not in alignment. And so
interesting. You'll have to shed some more light on that for our attendees.
Yeah, the easiest thing to say is, I want somebody who wants to be in our culture, that has big hopes, dreams, and values. In fact, if we were to create a numerical breakdown of how we hire, 25% is based on the DISC profile, right? Or are they a fit? So a listing agent is a D or a DI, and a buyer agent is an ID or an IS. Admins are SCs, and then ISAs are CDs, right? 25% of the fit. My friend Jay Niblick, who runs Wise Hire, explains it this way: is he says, if you're somebody who stocks shelves at a grocery store, and you need to be 6 feet tall to put things on the top shelf comfortably, you can be 5'10" and do it on your tiptoes for a while. But eventually the muscles in your body will give out, and it becomes a little more dangerous. And so the best hire would be somebody who's 6 foot taller.
I thought you just get taller. You don't get taller.
Howard, at your age, you might be shrinking now. I don't know how that goes.
You know I
am. The next 25% we give the word grit to, tenacity, perseverance. We love people that have a chip on their shoulder and something to prove. And for us, that has nothing to do with the love or desire of real estate. The final 50% is the most overused word when it comes to hiring and anything else, and that's culture. I want to change it to say that we want people to have the same heartbeat as us. And notice, in that 100%, I did not talk about technical proficiency 1 iota. Now, we just hired a videographer, right? And to hire a videographer means I need somebody who knows what they're doing with a camera and with software and with all of those intricacies within that. In your engineering and programming world, you need that same kind of skill set where they have to have some talent and knowledge of the job. When it comes to hiring agents, we have 52 people on our team right now, Howard.
Sorry, so just to review, it was culture, it was grit. What was the first one? Was
DISC.
Yes.
Yeah, like
DISC.
you're just natural, design, and fit. Yep.
Got it. Okay.
50% culture, 25 for the other 2. And so we have 52 people on our team right now, Howard, and only 3 of us have had previous real estate experience before working on our team. See, what we found is we found people who were culture fits, who had the right kind of grit and tenacity, and who were designed to do something like sales. And now we put them in that seat. They don't have bad habits necessarily learned from other places, and we've built something I think is pretty special.
Yeah, that grit for me is huge. So, I recently interviewed someone that we just hired for an account management position, and he just started getting pretty deep, about his background with me. And he talked about working at Wendy's, right? He talked about, having to leave school to take care of his sick, father. He talked about a lot of stuff, and I knew that this kid had some serious resilience and serious tenacity, was not going to take this job for granted, was going to love it when he got here, but was not going to be, sort of a spoiled millennial. This was a millennial who'd been through the ringer, right? And I love that perspective and that grit.
Yeah, when we test out grit and people who really want something, That comes to step number 3 on our 9-step process. Step number 2 is we were reviewing resumes. We're creeping on people on social media. You cannot and should not exclude based on any protected classes, but you're simply finding out, is this person a keyboard warrior? Are they crazy?
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't do the creep on social media. I'm not saying I shouldn't, right? It's just interesting. I don't.
Just one little warning is make sure you're seeing the right person. Make sure you're not looking at somebody else's profile. Like, this person's keyboard warrior. Yeah, it's just
don't social media creep on someone named John Smith. That's going to be
right. Exactly. Yep, it's happened before.
That's right. Step number 3, we start to create barriers of entry for people that show that they're interested, show that they have grit, show that they want it and want to work in this business, and even more specifically in my business, than just selling real estate. And Robbie, tell us about step number 3.
I love that. It's a great point.
Say that piece one more time, Hatch.
Tell us about step number 3, our career night.
Yeah. So basically, one funny thing I want to add is kind of like a fundamental rule that you should be picking up on that leads into number 3 is that a lot of people in the hiring process, as Eric said earlier, you're trying to glamorize the opportunity they have to come join your team. You're trying to sell them. And the guiding rule that we're trying to follow during our career night is not just telling them how great our team is. Frankly, another portion of it is trying to scare people at the realities of what it takes to be successful in these production-based roles. So during our career night, I think one of the cool things about it is, one, we get to disseminate a lot of information to people. Right? So instead of us having to do 15, 20 conversations one-on-one with people, we can disseminate information at scale to people. So it's something you organize, you put on that actually saves you quite a bit of time. But the whole point of that is to educate them about what the role is, who we are, what we do. And again, the point isn't to sell them at the opportunity, how you can make 6 figures or more, or how we have agents that are going to make $300,000 this year. We talk also about the realities of the commitment, the missed nights, the weekends, the responding to texts if you're an ISA all the dang time, the work that's required. So we're trying to talk about the realities of the role as well.
Mm-hmm. Our career night is that first extra step that is put out there for somebody to go above and beyond just the status quo. I'll give you an example. I placed an ad 3 years ago for my personal assistant. And I thought, man, this sounds like the worst job ever. Like, you're going to have to bring my dog to the vet and pick up my dry cleaning and schedule my life and deal with my chaos. And I had 307 people apply. And when I had 307 people apply, I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I filter this down? And so we filtered it down by looking at their resumes, creeping on them on social media. We invited about 70 people. Those 70 people turned into 30 that actually showed up for career night, people that were that interested that they were going to come on a random Monday for an hour and a half to learn about the job. Then they're learning about the job. And I can tell you, the moment you get 30 people in the room, you can pick out your favorite 3, no problem. This is an energy and a connection. And if you're hiring things that are data driven and somebody who has to have a massive skill set, you can learn about that on their resume. But if you're really craving that culture, that connection, that heartbeat, and I want this person as my social security number, so I need to be able to feel and trust them. And when you get them in the room, I was able to shrink that candidate pool from 30 down to 3 in a 1 hour period. And so that career night is the way to show, is that person hungry for this job? Do they have that kind of grit and that chip on their shoulder? And can I vibe with them? Because that's all super important. I'm going to go fast now. Number 4 in our hiring process is we send out some questionnaires for them to fill out, kind of like essay questions, so we can get a little more in-depth view of what their answers are. Number 5 is we do a 30-minute interview. And then number 6, we spend time doing deep reference checks. So let's say Howard is applying for a job and he gives me 3 references. I learned this in some Keller Williams stuff. They say that with those 3 references, you get 3 references from. And you ask, who else knows Howard that I can talk to? And I find 3 more people. And then these 3 people, I ask that same question, who else knows Howard that I can talk to? And so I get 9 references. Sometimes we can't get all the way there, but we'll get up to 9 references on one applicant because I'm not going to let crazy into my world. If you've ever seen that scene in Caddyshack where all the caddies go to the pool and they throw a baby Ruth into the pool. What even looks like a turd has everybody run from the pool. And oftentimes a bad hire is a turd in your water that nobody wants to be around, and it infects and impacts everybody. And I will protect my pool as long as I can.
I also don't like those floating Band-Aids. You have a floating Band-Aid that comes up to you in the pool. You're like, come on, you're wearing a Band-Aid, don't get in the pool. That's all I'm saying. All right.
Yeah. I want to add one more piece of that as well. I think one of the unique things that we've traditionally done in our hiring process as well is one person isn't the only person taking the lead throughout this whole process. Usually we have multiple actors that are being involved. And I think where that really helps with this is different people will see and hear different things. A good example, at the career night, Eric may think somebody's a terrible fit, but I had a conversation, or I met them, or I had I observed something that Eric didn't, that was a huge win. So I think having multiple people involved that are different, that's one of the biggest things that we've learned to do. And even throughout the other steps that you're gonna check out here in a little bit, like the final interview, having a couple stakeholders in the room gives you a diaspora of opinions and different filters and viewpoints that helps you make a better decision. And there's been times in the interview process where Eric and I have drastically disagreed on some things. We've battled it out, and it's led to better decisions in both cases. So just wanted to point it out.
Let me add on there something that's really important that I make sure happens, because we always have a number of people interviewing every one candidate.
Yeah.
Before they would get to me, final stage. But what I want to prevent is what's called groupthink.
Mm-hmm.
And groupthink happens all the time. So I get someone passed up to me, and the executive's like, "Oh yeah, you've got to talk to Maisie. She's awesome, dude. She's just so good. Wait till you talk to her, right?"
Yeah.
I'm already, like, my interview, you can throw it out, right? Because I'm already conditioned by someone I respect, and my executive team is like, "Maisie's awesome. Like, you got to talk to her," right? Mm-hmm. And I'm always pounding the pavement, because it's just unnaturally, like, okay, like, I'm going to talk to them, like, "What'd you think of them?" Right? Don't ask that question, and don't share it. Everybody needs to start with a blank slate. And then you've got to be really careful about how you order who shares what, because groupthink can be very pernicious in not just in interviewing, but in a lot of different ways in your organization.
Yeah. I've taken that same kind of mentality, Howard. And if I'm the final interviewer and the final person, what I'll say is not, "What do you think of that person?" I'll say, "What are your red flags that you currently are seeing?" Mm-hmm. And so I'll in fact ask for the negative, so I can go deeper with that and explore if it's a falsification, or if it's really, really something to be concerned about.
Interesting. Yeah.
So to recap, step 1, place the ad and have it well written. Step number 2, research your resumes and creep on social media. Step number 3, career night. Step number 4, essay questions. Step number 5 is a 30-minute interview. Step number 6 is reference checks. And step number 7 is a 3-hour interview. We just hired a runner, a 20-hour a week, $11 an hour runner in our business, and he went through the same process.
Wow. Now, are you doing after that, you're doing full background checks?
Background checks before we ever get to like the reference portion and that sort.
Before you get to the reference. Okay, that's important. A lot of people don't do that, so that's important to mention that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Robbie, what is it? Forewarn that we're using?
Yeah, Forewarn basically does a quick back. We do it on leads too, Howard, actually, in a lot of cases. So there's odd things. That's why we got it, was to check leads that sound suspicious. And no joke, Forewarn has saved us from putting agents or ourselves in some very interesting situations with people. Not to say it's always correct, but it's a really interesting red flag, because then you go digging deeper. But yeah, we use Forewarn. Exactly.
The social media creeping on leads is really interesting. It's like you could find a lead, who's just, go to social media, they're all about horses, right? So then you send them like a bomb vid mail, right? And you've got like your "I love horses" t-shirt on the video. Anyway.
I don't own any "I love horses" t-shirts, but it looks like I have to go to the store here soon and get a new one.
It's so
I know what I'm getting for Christmas. So
Step number 7 is maybe my favorite part of the process, and it's a 3-hour interview, which is super lengthy. And it is not a dive into necessarily their skill set, and it's instead a dive into their culture. And so, Howard, if you were that person applying for the job, I would tee you up and I'd say, how are the next probably hour and a half or 2 hours, we're going to do a serious dive into your life. I want to start from birth up until where we find ourselves today. This is not a time for meekness or for holding back or humility. I want to know the highest of highs and the lowest of lows that have happened in your life. And I want to know how they impacted you, right? And my job, my goal in this is I want to get you stopping giving me the repeated, rehearsed answer. Mm-hmm. So as an example, you'll say, well, you know, I grew up in Irvine, California. And then you're going to go to the next sentence and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. What was that like growing up in Irvine? Well, it was like this, and my best friend was this person. Tell me about your best friend, right? And then, are you guys still close? No, we're not close anymore. Well, what happened with that relationship, right? I'm going to keep asking questions until I get to your raw emotions. Not because I'm trying.
I did this exact same thing. I say to them, I'm a horrible interviewer. That's all I'll say. I'm a horrible interviewer. Like I can't ask all these questions. I just want to hear you tell me your story. Let's start at the beginning. So funny, you and I do exactly the same thing. And I say, I want to hear your journey, right? Because everyone's on a journey. And then I always get into the why. Mm-hmm. So the why is, why did they make decisions that led them to the next place in their journey? So it's even sort of like, oh, I went to Wichita State. And then, no, wait a second. Just like you said, Eric, wait a second. Why did you choose Wichita State? Yeah. Why did you choose that major? Why did you choose that first job? Why did you choose to leave that job? So we're always getting into the why, and it gets them to stop, as you said,
100%.
Get a little bit deeper, not as opposed to just rattling off the resume.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and one thing to add to this is it's first off, you two would make great ISAs. I'm going to point that out because that's all you're doing is you're ISAing someone, just so you know. But I think you both would recognize that there's this pause that happens when you ask that, because you force them to think, because they're so rehearsed, like you said, they're so ready to just tell you that resume, tell you skills, tell you how they want to be managed, blah, blah, blah. That when you say, well, why did you choose Wichita State? Why did you choose to not go somewhere else? And when you keep going to these things, there's moments of pause, and those pauses are what are really showing that you're getting somebody to think. You're getting past that surface level minutia. Those pauses, those deep breaths, or frankly, even some tears mean you're getting somewhere, right? Because you're getting to the core and the heart of another human.
Someone made a comment here, and Eric's responding to it right now, Robbie, which is seems too intrusive. And I think that you do have to be versed, especially like for us running a pretty big organization at this point. You've got to be very well versed on what you're allowed to ask and what you're not allowed to ask.
Yes.
Some very particular questions you are not allowed to ask. Yeah. So I'm glad that she brought it up. Yeah. And us asking, why did you choose to leave Wichita State early, right? We can ask that question, right? Now, if someone says something personal, tragic, whatever was going on in my life, I think you've got to be careful at that point. Personally, my line might be different than your guys' line, right? And then I will sometimes preface it with, please don't share what you're not comfortable sharing. Only share what you're comfortable sharing. Mm-hmm. But I think it's pretty easy to go online and Google and just literally Google questions you are not allowed to ask in an interview, and everyone should download those questions.
Yeah. So I can't say, Howard, tell me about your family. But if I say, tell me about a relationship that's really important in your life, and you tell me about your mom for a long while, I'm going to learn everything I want by simply, sometimes the best question you can ask is silence. And when you give silence, the person will keep going if they're willing to.
Yes.
And so I won't blur any of those lines by any way, shape, or form. But I think it's so important that we're going to be spending more time with this person than we often do our own personal families, our own spouses, and we're trusting them with oftentimes hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in responsibility. And I won't breeze over going deep in these relationships to understand their tenacity, their grit, their culture. And you know what I'm really seeking out is I'm making sure that they're not a victim. I don't have any time or patience for somebody who's a victim in this world. and especially in my own ecosystem. And so I want people that are going to be overcomers. And I value somebody who is an alcoholic who has fought it for 10 years rather than somebody who's closet drinking. You know what I mean? Like, I want somebody who's gone to hell and back and has those battle scars to prove it, instead of somebody who's just doing things in the shadows, because it's the shadows where all the darkness exists.
Yeah, it's a good point. So someone that's constantly blaming others and never looking to themselves. It's always other people's faults. It's their boss's fault. It's their coworker's fault. It's just common theme. It's gonna present itself at your company. And I always tell folks, like, we look for these red flags, and it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult and too time consuming to think that you can really change a person. So they tend to become patterns. I'm not saying it's impossible. I've seen people who have taken constructive criticism really, really well in our organizations and have actually changed. But it's rare. It's really rare.
Yeah, and that moves on actually to the second part of step number 7. Remember, I said it's a 3-hour interview, but the life story portion is an hour and a half or 2 hours. And it isn't until step number 7, part 2, that we start asking about things like job skills, and we start asking about things like coachability. The question we won't ask is, Howard, are you coachable? And Howard, of course, is going to say, yes, I'm coachable. Awesome. Check, that guy's coachable. And instead, I'll ask questions about, like, Howard, tell me 2 times in your life when you were coached exceedingly well, and what did that look like? You know? And I'm seeing, is that something that's embraced, and can he name that? Or has he been a quote unquote self-made man? You know? And I want somebody who is going to be reliant to help sharpen the person next to them, and that's letting other people sharpen them, that will really help to grow our ecosystem. Of course, when you're looking for something in a very specific skill set, you're validating those skills as you're going through this. The reference checks, the interview portion, what awards did you win, that sort. Some of those things can be written in paper. What we're really looking for here is the emotional connection and the heartbeat to be matching one another.
Interesting recent story. So, we were looking for someone in sort of a management position. We were looking for someone who had good analytical skills, good sort of analytical could develop KPIs, right? And I was the last person to interview this woman, got into it, and so we was on Zoom, right? And so she's like, "Whoa, hold on a second," and she shares a screen, and she's like, "This is what I just built at this company that I'm just at," and she's whizzing me through this thing, and it's got Excel sheets, got pivot tables, it's got and she built this whole thing from scratch. And I was like, awesome. That is just absolutely awesome. And no one else in any of the interviews had she presented that, right?
Oh, interesting. I like that. As we're going through our 9 steps, on step number 7, we feel like we're almost there, but step number 8 is, I think, the great validator time. And the great validator time comes when that's the interview with Howard, or that's the interview with the other people that are going to be in your department.
Oh, and we don't nickname, the Great Validator.
That's right.
That's my new T-shirt.
That and the horse shirt. That's going to be a really nice wardrobe you're rocking.
Great Validator.
And so you're there to, you don't need to validate that person's job skill at this point. That should have been done prior to this. And you're not there to validate anything, I think, except for making sure that this decision that was made to bring it to step number 8, to bring it to the final judge and jury, they get to be the yes or the no and the thumbs up or the thumbs down, because they're the ones that are going to be working intimately and or risking their money and investments into it. And so I think what you're doing, Howard, is right, to protect your ecosystem, that you're kind of that final say, and you can ask the questions based on the red flags other people brought up, based on the concerns that they had. In our world, let's say we're hiring an ISA, our ISA team is going to take that person out for coffee or beer or lunch or whatever it may be, and get to know them in a different ecosystem, because we want them to feel like they can trust that person. Vulnerability is an amazing value that we have in our teams here in Fargo, and that is the way in which you can continue to inspect that and to see if you can trust this person with your good and your bad. And then step 9 is you give them the job.
I have a final stage that I do, which is I could be 3/4 the way through an interview and I realize I'm interviewing a rock star.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to keep the whole sort of, holier than thou, you're lucky to come work here. I pivot. Once I realize, look, if they've gotten to me, I know like some people believe in them, right? Because they're just not going to bring up someone to me, right? And then if 3/4 in the interview, I'm like, this woman is a freaking rock star.
Mhm.
I go into sales mode. I'm just telling you, I'm not sure you guys do it. I'm just telling you what I do.
Mhm.
And I'm going into Howard can sell ice to an Eskimo mode. And I make sure at the end of the interview, they're like, cannot wait to join us.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that pivot. I think it's a good one.
It's important, right? You find a rock star, then you just get them so excited. You should come to the interview just in case, right? Come to the interview with the things that are so important about your culture, your team, how folks love being there. It feels like family, the fun stuff you guys do. It's a meritocracy, like all the stuff, why it's great to work at Hatch is all coming out at that point.
One of my favorite closers actually comes back. I go back to my college days. And when I was a freshman in college, one of the fraternities on campus, it was their recruitment week, their rush week. And so they had advertised free pokers and wings and Hooters girls. And so I went because I love wings and poker, and so
wings, poker, Hooter girls. I love wings and poker.
That's right.
That was the classic.
I'm just my wife might watch this someday. So so I went over there and played some poker and ate some wings and kept my eyes on my cards the whole time. And the next day I got an invitation to join. It's called a bid in Greek life. And I'm like, I don't want to join this crap hole of a fraternity. Like I was there for the free stuff. And they're like, we're having a party tomorrow night with these sorority chicks and you should come hang out. And so I went to the party and it was like the grossest party I've ever been to. And they're like, man, help yourself to drinks. And I went in the kitchen and it was gin and Hawaiian punch that was left over. And so like 18-year-old Eric was like, let's do this, And one of the members came up to me and talks to me for 5 minutes. I'll never forget this. And he's like, you know what, Eric, we could really use a guy like you around here. You'd really help us grow. And I joined and we turned that place around and we turned it from what was a dump to something that was really respectable. It was one of the best things I did with my life. And there's something powerful in recruitment about saying, I could really use a guy like you or a gal like you. You could really enhance our world. We want to enhance your world, but I think you could do some great good here as well. And that kind of invitation to the right person will be more powerful than the salary you provide, the hours that they're to work. We love asking people to value what they think is most valuable to least valuable. And we say, is it the compensation? Is it the time? Is it the autonomy? Is it the title? Help us understand which of these is most important to you.
So
right?
Eric, do you guys have this kind of like Google sheet of questions, a pool of questions, and maybe you'll pull X number of those questions based on the interview or the position?
We do, yeah. We offer really training on this whole process, and we give all our questions away and everything else. So I'll put a link up here on the chat bot, if that's all right with you.
I would personally love to. I would love to get a copy of those questions, and would love to use some of those questions as I continue to develop as an interviewer. I'm sure I'm not, the world's greatest interviewer, but I'd love to develop those skills. Also, there was a question, maybe it's for Kiwi. Someone's wondering if this is going to be recorded because which is an honor, someone would really like to get a copy of this session. Do you guys know is it being recorded?
Yeah.
It's recorded and it'll be up on ylopo.com/media after the fact.
Awesome. The other tip that I would give is, remember, it's the right person, but in the right position, right? So this next question that I ask, I'm not going to ask to someone who's, applying for a finance and billing position, right? But I'm going to ask every day of the week to someone who's applying to be a salesperson or an account manager, a relationship person. And one of my final questions before I might go into sales mode is I'll say, okay, we've talked about all this stuff, a lot of nitty gritty, your journey, everything. Pitch me. Sell me on why in this coveted position I have, you are the person for this. It's very sort of cliche, but I love, love, love getting that, because I'm a salesperson, right? They need to sell, right? They're representing selling our product, selling themselves. I have a relationship person, right? An account manager. I need to hear why they believe they are the best person for this position. And I find that answer to be gold. I'm not sure what you guys think about it. It's a little bit of a cliche question, but what do you guys think about it?
I think for us, that we start really diving into that through the whole process, we're almost seeing this evolving story of why they're a good fit, not just in terms of skills, but also in terms of their character, like Eric's saying. I think it's more like an onion for us at that point of, we've already seen that at that point. I think,
I guess, Robin, what I'm saying is you've peeled back the onion layer, 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 and they're vibing and all this kind of stuff, and culture and grit and all this kind of stuff. But then can you fold the onion back up? Can that, hiree fold that onion back up, sit back from it? And I'm testing, like,
that's good, Howard.
Did they listen? And can they come back and say, I'm great for you because I'm a great culture fit, because blah, 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 because I've got, grit, because I did this, and because I'm going to sell, blah, blah, blah. And can they fold that back up? And then clearly, again, it's like, what is Ylopo? It's that clear enunciation of what it is about them that we need in our organization.
Yeah, you're really asking them to say, can you repeat back to me what you believe this company values and what you can offer based on what you right? That's great. Here's my favorite interview question, and it has been planting a seed for decades of growth. And so what I ask is this: I would say, Howard, what does this place need to be so that this is the last place you ever want to work?
Wow, love it.
And so what I'm doing is I'm saying, like, I'm not in.
I'm that again. That's cool.
Howard, what does this place need to be so that this is the last place you ever want to work? And so you'll find those people that have long-term visions of, I want to be a builder and I want to help and I want to enhance, or I want stability and safety. I want massive, massive wealth. In our world, Howard, we've lost in the last 12 months, 1 person, and in the last 24 months, 3 people.
Incredible.
And we've been able to retain such talent because the conversations that we have start in the interview process and continue out as that lifeline in our ecosystem. There's no reason that Robbie shouldn't be out running his own amazing coaching company and tech company and doing great things. And instead, we've talked about how are we going to dream together and get there together.
Let me ask you, let's go dive deeper into that. I love that question. What are some of the things you guys are looking for in the answer to that question?
I will say from my perspective, and I want you to add, Hatch, I think for us, it's people that aren't just saying, I want to go sell real estate. It's not just, I want to go and be inside of homes. We're looking for people that have visions of bigger dreams, hopes, and aspirations, because if there's one thing we've learned, and John Maxwell has hammered this to death, that you can't teach hunger, you can't teach drive. In production-based roles, you can't push somebody to do anything. What you can do is you can learn, right? If Tony Robbins says it best, if you want to influence someone, you need to find out what's already influencing them. I think for me, and tell me if you agree with this, Hatch, you want someone who has the audacity to think a little bit bigger, dream where they want to go, and push that edge. And I think that's a core point of our whole business, of us just not being a real estate company anymore. Right? We're going into so many places.
You a runner too?
He got off with a little more leeway,
So Eric, what are the things you're looking for in that answer to that question?
Yeah, I want somebody who is not satisfied with the status quo, is really what it is. I want our environment to be only the exceptional, only those that are dreaming big. And a lot of people need help to see that far out, right? But somebody will say, I need a place that I make $100,000 a year. So I'll say, okay, what happens after you make $100,000? And they'll be like, well, maybe I want to make 120. Okay, so you need a place that will give you continual chances to, like, they maybe don't know that answer for themselves. But what I'm looking for is not somebody that says, if it's an admin, I want them to be safe and secure. but they also have to know that our world is full of disruption all the time. And so where their paycheck may be safe, their job tasks and responsibilities and predictability are out the window. For our agents, people have been afraid of hiring really talented, amazing agents because they're afraid of what happens when you train them really well and they learn how to produce deals from their sphere, and then they're going to graduate. Howard, our top performing agent this last year did 75 sphere deals in our organization. Of the 123 that he closed, one agent, one showing partner, 123 deals. And there's no reason he should stay in our ecosystem, except for the fact that I know I asked him 4 years ago, Tyler, what is it going to take for you? What does this place need to be for you to stay here and that it continues? He says, it needs to continue to evolve and challenge me, and I have to have a glass ceiling that continues to be raised. And guess what happens is I need to find more opportunity for Tyler. Our ecosystem gets exponentially bigger. That guy went and opened up a moving company last year and is making money hand over fist because he, again, took the resources that we have and he's now benefited himself in this great accord. We have people investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in flipping houses and doing these other things into strategies that are powering their life. And this real estate thing is the vehicle that's always going to be their constant. So I'm looking for somebody who wants a big life, man.
Let me ask you a question. I think the answers will be very valuable to our community. Now, so my questions are, particularly when our folks asking us all the time, like, should I hire an ISA? If I hire an ISA, like, how do I do that? What am I looking for? Now, I'm going to preface this with, I know you guys are going to answer this question here, but it's a long answer, right? It's what you guys provide. You provide a course and a system and coaching for ISA recruiting and training and all that. So I would tell everybody, if you're thinking about it, you really got to look to the system you guys are doing here. But at a very high level, so two questions. One is, if I'm going to make this leap and hire an ISA, right? Which I know for a fact, having done this for a decade and a half, if I had $1 for every time someone said to me, I finally found a killer ISA, changed my business, changed my whole, I'm the winner, right? I'm the team leader. This ISA, I never had the right ISA before, changed our whole business, right? We went from 75 units to 150 units, right? So that's such a critical hire. And what are you looking for? And what tidbits can you give to our group? And for the other folks who are not yet ready to hire an ISA, but they need to bring on some agents who are not going to be afraid to call, email, text, right? How do you find those folks? So I know, guys, I know I'm asking a question, which is a whole course that you guys have, but let's unleash some value here for some folks and tease it a little bit.
Hatch, I want you to take the first one, actually. We're going to mix this up. I want you to, because I think you talking about hiring maybe me and talking through that just real quickly is probably the best example of that. So yeah, go ahead.
First of all, we didn't hire Robbie. We recruited Robbie. That was really important. Robbie was working on political campaigns back in 2013, fresh out of college and knocking on doors and getting no's and FU's all the time. Robbie was in an uphill, yeah.
Oh, legitimately, Howard.
Yeah, legit. Yeah.
Yeah. Robbie was very much at an uphill battle, and he had worked on a political campaign for one of our team members. We have a team member that's active in politics in the state of North Dakota, and he got validated. Like, the guy's like, you gotta talk to Robbie. He'd be a great ISA. And we didn't even know what the job was back in 2013. We thought it was just calling old leads, and that was about it. Yep. And Robbie came in dressed kind of homeless. Drops the F-bomb in his interview with me at least 3 different times, is sweaty and nervous.
That's how I took my first job out of college. I was interviewing with all these this very uptight companies. And then this British company came in and this guy's like, yeah. And then F. And I was like, that's the company I want to work for. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I didn't drop any F-bombs, but Robbie sure did.
Yeah, it was the opposite.
And we hired him because he wasn't wanting, he knew how to make phone calls. He knew how to do the job, but we hired him because of the who that he was. It again goes to the reference of who, not how. how to do the job as an ISA is not a sexy job. It's a lot of phone calls, a lot of database management. We said the who needs to be somebody who wants to be a manager and a leader and a vision caster and an accountability buddy for our team members, and somebody who had the ability to grind, plant a seed, and not have it bring harvest till 2 or 3 seasons later. And that's who we were and continue to be looking for. We hit the gold mine with Robbie. We have an amazing ISA team now, but we still only get it right 60 or 70% of the time. It is hands down our hardest role to fill in our ecosystem.
Yeah. And then I think, Howard, to answer the question of how do we find agents that are willing to prospect? I'm actually going to answer it in a much different way, Howard. One big thing that we've learned to do in our business is one of the fundamental flaws that we see in the real estate business is we bring people in and everything is given and nothing is earned. What we've done much differently throughout our whole business for ISAs or agents is everything is earned and nothing is given. I think what you have to do, Howard, is when you bring agents in, bring ISAs in, whoever's going to be doing the lead generation. Because if you don't have an ISA, someone is the ISA, all right? And it's not Rhea, all right? It's somebody. There's a human there that's taking the baton. But what it really comes down to, what I have to ask is, what are they doing to earn the opportunities on your team? You see, what we do, Howard, when we bring ISAs in, is you know what they do for their first level? It's not time-based, right? It's production-based. They call the old crappy opportunities, and they have to produce out of there before they graduate up to the old, a little less crappy opportunities. Then you get to graduate up to the lower quality new opportunities. Then you get to graduate up to the new higher quality opportunities. And you finally, months later,
you get the Glengarry leads.
You get the good stuff.
The
right?
Glengarry leads.
Right? You get the good stuff. Where everybody goes wrong, Howard, this really bothers me because everybody says like agents are entitled, right? Here's what's really interesting. This is my theory is if you're in the mall, nobody goes to the mall anymore, but let's say you're in the mall and you see an 8-year-old kid who's acting entitled. He's spoiled. We all know inherently that's not that kid's fault. It's his parents. Yet in real estate, we have a bunch of agents who have become entitled. And we're saying it's their fault. It's never their fault.
I'm going to give you the most amazing agent. I get this all the time. Like I have so many personal stories of agent entitlement. Yeah. So I recently rented a house last month, a whole month, Christmas, New Year's, month of December, this amazing house out in the desert. Okay. Incredible. Overlooked the valley, pool, spa, the whole thing. Was my COVID retreat. I worked there every day. Beautiful place, right? I love this place. Yeah. I found out who the agent was on this place, right? I said, I want to buy this house. The house not for sale. I said, hey, I get it. They're not selling for $1, but they're going to sell it to me for 10 million. I'm not buying at 10 million, right? But there's a price. Everybody's got a price, right? And okay, I'm a buyer. Find out, right? She's talking to the owner. Yeah, owner's not really interested. I'm like, I shouldn't selling at market value. What's market value? $650 a square foot. I said, bam, I'll pay $850 a square foot. Okay. Yeah. I went nowhere with this agent. Okay. Now, if you're the agent on this call and the seller is legitimately like, no, this is how I make my income. I'm not selling this house, right? So I'm not going to be able to buy this house, but you're this agent. What are you going to do?
I offer you value. Dude, let's get on the phone. I find you the house.
Yes. It's so freaking simple.
Yeah, right? Proactive.
Dude, I'm a $2.5 million buyer in the desert. I'm like a freaking unicorn out there. Right?
It's successful people know to find you.
Asked to meet me, do a Zoom, show me homes, show me something that's going to be even better than the home I was renting. Not once. Dude, I can't tell you, like, are you kidding me? Are you married to a billionaire? Like, what is up? And guess what? I'm in escrow in a $2.6 million house as we speak. Not that agent. Not that freaking entitled agent. Anyway, guys, we're at the hour. I want to tell you, so first of all, I really want to thank both of you guys for being such important parts of our Ylopo family and our community and giving back to our community. And I know Eric comes from a place, you guys both come from a place of giving. Eric has an amazing, charity that he's passionate about, Spearheads. We've contributed to that. I look for that kind of stuff in people. And, you guys are just a really, really important part of our whole community. I also want to say that, like, guys, I do a lot of stuff all day long that's not so much fun, right? This was fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. And so I look forward to doing this. We'll start a clubhouse and we'll do the same thing with a recruiting topic.
I got to go get an iPhone. Oh, son of a gun.
You guys are a wealth of information on this topic. Kiwi, thanks for putting this all together.
Yeah, Howard. So right after this, if you hang up, if you can jump into Clubhouse and take any questions from there, just as a wrap up, that'd be fantastic.
Awesome. And then I'll invite you guys to Clubhouse. Oh my God, Robbie, you're going to be a beast on that. You put Hatch and Robbie T at Clubhouse.
I'm going to buy Hatch an iPhone. He's going to have 2 phones.
Robbie's never bought me anything in my life. It's not going to start.
I bought you a year's worth of LaCroix for Christmas.
That's true.
we got a lot of thanks. Epic. People like Dominic Labriola, who we love, says epic. Thank you everyone for this. Such a great presentation. Ruby says thank you all. Sorry, Clubhouse hasn't figured it out for Android. So if you're Android right now, you're SOL, get an iPhone. Guys, this rocked. Let's do more of it. And I'm someday, post-pandemic, I'm coming to Fargo. It's my favorite TV show ever. Later, guys. We're out.
Later. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.